Hey friends, here we are back in my studio. As you can see, I scraped another canvas. It actually turned out okay, but the blue took over and it looked like another painting that I did. And instead of letting it dry, what I tend to do sometimes is just scrape it off so that way I don't have another layer of paint on top. So these are colors I'm going to be using today. I'm going to do a puddle, pour, and swirl. I am not really sure of the order. I'm sort of thinking of putting some of the lighter colors on the bottom and then stacking them up that way. So this champagne color and the white are going to be the barriers between some of the darker colors. So hopefully that turns out nice. So these all colors were pretty much mixed with other colors except for the champagne, which is a Gotta Deal brand paint. But the white here, that's just a little bit extra white because this was too thick. When I added water, I needed to pour some off. It's just Dazzling Metallics, White Pearl, and then Artist Loft Soft Body White. And this is, I think, Liquitex Basics Raw Umber or Burnt Sienna. I'm not sure. I get those colors mixed up all the time. And then this right here is Burnt Orange, and I added a little bit of champagne to it and a little bit of yellow from Artist Loft. And then, of course, this is a lot of yellow with a dot or two of red, both Artist Loft Soft Body Paints. Artist Loft Soft Body Paint red with a little bit of Payne's Gray. And then this blue, this Dazzling Metallics Ice Blue with a little bit of, what did I put in there? Oh, Splendid Gold. And there's my black right there. So as a reminder, how I mix my paints. Well, two things. One, I use cups as my measuring, the way I measure my paints. So this takes so much paint to cover the canvas. I think it's like 48 ounces. I could be off a little bit. So I use 8-ounce cups to do that. So that's about 56 ounces, quite a lot of paint right there. However, you know, there's my 24-ounce cup of black paint. Remember, you've got all these edges and corners. These are 36 inches all the way around each edge. So there's a lot that you're gonna be tilting off. So this is working for me, it's the right amount. But how I mix my paints. So I usually do about 1 part paint to 2 to 4, 5, 6 parts Floetrol. Depends on the size of the cup. So in this cup here, typically if I'm filling it up, it's just paint, maybe 2 parts, 3 parts Floetrol, then a little bit of water and a drizzled Liquitex pouring medium. I use more Floetrol in the bigger cups, and of course then in this 24-ounce cup, I use quite a lot of Floetrol and just a little bit of black, again, water, Liquitex pouring medium. One more thing before we get started is, you know, it's important to think about straining your paints. Look at the chunks in there. I mixed and mixed and mixed, hand mixed these, and I still had chunks. Same for the black paint. You can see it in there on the bottom there. So it's just a reminder, if you don't want to have any mistakes on your canvas or any, I call them caterpillars, where a clump sticks and as you are tilting it, it just sort of drags out. Sometimes you'll see that on my canvas after I have tilted, but sometimes all the reaction that takes place kind of fills it in and you don't even see it in the final composition. So enough chattering here. I'm going to go ahead, double check these once again and think about my strategy, and we'll get started. Okay, friends, here we are on this previously scraped canvas. Quick hello. Now, I have a lot of neutral colors in this pour and a little bit of pop of red and a little bit of blue. So what I've learned doing these pours over the past few months, doing these puddle pours and swirl, is that the colors that I use towards the end of pouring my puddles tend to take over the background of my canvas. So you will see once we finish this part of the video what I'm talking about. So what I was hoping was to have some delineation, especially since I'm using the white sparingly. I'm not just pouring a whole bunch out. I'm using them during certain, between certain layers there, to provide a little bit of a barrier. Now, I didn't want to pour that champagne color into the blue because it might create some green. So you got to think about that sometimes when you're pouring, about how colors may mix. I don't mind if the orange mixes with the brown or with the sort of copper color or the red as well, because they're all sort of in the same family. So again, I'm just slowly stacking these. And I put the blue next to the red because on the color wheel, they go together. They're side by side. And there's purple in between, so it's okay if it makes some purple. So I'm just doing a little bit at a time. I'm not pouring a whole lot. I was thinking, oops, a little bit of white with the red might create some pink. But we just keep stacking the colors. Once again, putting some white between the darker colors of the orange and the browns and the coppery color. I think we're almost done here, finishing off the cups. Put a little bit of white as a barrier, a boundary, and then finishing off with the red, the blue, and then some red on top of that. Okay, that's a lot of paint. So double check the consistency of the black paint. It's been sitting there for a while. Got to make sure it's ready to go. And let's do some pouring. So I poured in the middle of the last little puddle in my stack there. That's my cat in the background. He's just looking for somebody, I guess. And I just did a simple swirl here. I didn't swirl and swirl and swirl. I just sort of wanted to spread the black out a little bit, get it around the color, and then bring it over the edge as you see. Now remember, I have a lot of paint on the canvas, but I had these big, big edges. And so I just want to make sure I can get that off and then bring it over and back over so the weight of the paint sort of goes towards the middle of the canvas. Now the weight of the paint tends to be where my black negative space is. It's the last part of the canvas to usually dry. The edges and sides are pretty thin. So we're going to put it on time lapse and you can see it start to fill in. And you see some rings coming out, and we'll talk about that in the next couple of segments about what my thoughts are on what to do. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay guys, here we are about 45 minutes after I left the room. And I have to say, it's quite interesting looking. I really do like sort of the eye we have going on there and the edge filled in. And, you know, we have these two rings, which I think also make it interesting. I'm just going to kind of go in and show you the close-up. You can see the blue in there. It's so funny how things sort of neutralized as opposed to just staying with the red and the orange. But that's cool. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. I'm going to let it dry. Let me walk over here. I don't anticipate any changes. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it as is. Sometimes neutral colors look pretty cool. So here's the edge here, but I'm not gonna go in and paint this out. Since we have some pearls around it, I'm gonna leave it as it is. So let's see how it dries, and then we will show you some close-ups. I'll do that right now. I love these pearls right through here. I think they're quite interesting. You can see the blue mixed in. It's actually quite fascinating. Great color. It's subtle, but at the same time, it's simple and it's beautiful. Let's let it dry, and I'll catch you probably tomorrow morning. Well, it'll probably be about 5 seconds from now. Let it dry overnight, and I'll show you first thing. Okay guys, here I am. I'm back the next morning, which is basically just 5 or 6 seconds from when I left you last. And this is what I've got as my, I think it's dry. It might be a little wet, a little bit of a shine there. It's a little wet. So I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. I don't know if you remember the painting I did a few weeks ago. I forgot what I called it, but it was basically turquoise blue with a nice crescent in here. I did some touch-ups to make the crescent stand out. I often don't like to touch and embellish my paintings. I like them to be sort of natural and raw. However, I'm gonna do several things here, which is gonna be risky on my part. So let me kind of walk you through it. So I have a little bit of an exterior, oops, focus on my finger, exterior ring of white. I might go in and just lightly dot those to make them stand out. Then I have this ring here. I'm gonna just extend it a little bit farther in each direction, as you can see, maybe to here, to down here, and then make this pop a little bit more. So I'm gonna add some of this sort of white and cream color, and I may take it all the way here, then all the way, over there. That's a lot, but I think it'll make it stand out a little bit more. I've got these beautiful pearls, as you can see, that almost look like, stepping stones. But what I like about this is that since it's more on the neutral side, I really just think if I add just a little bit more, it'll really pop. So that's gonna be my goal. And when I have some time the next couple days, of course you'll be seeing this video, it's just one video, I'm gonna get working on that and see what we come up with. Whew, that's a lot. So I'll probably do a time lapse just because, I like to show people sort of my process and see what I'm working on. But that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, friends, so hold on. I will be back in a few seconds to start this process of the time lapse and we'll get going. Okay guys, here we are back at the canvas. I did a sort of an overall view here so you can see what I'm doing. I added this little curve that was sort of outlined, sort of in a white, sort of bluish white. Then as you can see, I extended the second curved line, and then I moved into just highlighting some of these other around the negative space. So this is it. So let's look at the dried results in just a moment. Okay, so we are done here with all the touch-ups. And yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. I didn't want to make it too obvious. I sort of did some white, light blue dots here, sort of yellow and gold, a few yellow and gold through here, and that's about it. So I'll show you up close, just again, the pearls, the cells. You can see somewhere I've added some dots. When I think about this, I think about composition and how it looks overall, and, especially from a distance. Negative space, I left the edge just because I had some pearls over there. You had some little bit of that blue come through, as you can see. And here's those two sort of arcs right there. So friends, that's it. We are done. And let's see, I'm gonna do something new the next day or two. Okay, so friends, thanks for stopping by. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, and we'll see you real soon.